Hello there, it's 5 p.m. in Banjul. This is News Review. My name is Lamin Jai. Coming up on the show, the President of India, Ram Nath Kovind, has arrived in the Gambia. We have a report on that. Also coming up, former PPP leader Omar Jallow downplays Bibi Dabo's defection. These and more coming up. My name is Lamin Jai and I'm with my co-presenter Jaka Sise Jaite, who will be looking at the papers today. Jaka, what do we have in the papers today?
Thank you very much, Lamin. We understand that newspaper. We have FM Tangara says economic mandate should be extended. Assembly approves tax revision on Banjul breweries products. 17 Koina villages granted bail, 5 discharged. Dabo urges supporters to avoid intimidating opponents. FM Tangara says economic mandate should be extended. Assembly approves tax revision on Banjul breweries products. The National Assembly yesterday approved the revised excise tax levied on the alcoholic beverage. The new measures now bring down the tax from 75% to 35%. The Gambia's only brewery, Banjul Breweries, has been at the forefront of efforts to revise the tax, which they say has threatened to kill their investment and hundreds of direct and indirect Gambian jobs. The 75% increase was part of the policy embedded in the 2019 appropriation bill approved by the Parliament in January 2019, a tax reform measure. Also on the Standard newspaper, 17 Koina villages granted bail, 5 discharged. The Janjanbureh High Court yesterday discharged 5 of the people charged in the wake of the caste dispute that rocked Koina and some part of the URR. Those set free are Mohammed Sane, Jaraga Kamara, Bangali Kanute, Ibrahima Gumane, and Musa Kanute. Also on the Standard newspaper, Dabo urges supporters to avoid intimidating opponents. The United Democratic Party leader Usainu Dabo has called on his party supporters to remain decent and avoid insulting or intimidating their opponents. Addressing his party supporters in Wisconsin, United States, during a launch of a new UDP chapter in the city via telephone, the former vice president urged all UDP supporters, both home and in the diaspora, to abstain from insulting and caricaturing their opponents. You cannot really intimidate people and expect them to support you. That is not UDP. The UDP has always taken the position that its ideas are superior to the ideas of its opponents, and we have always engaged them to convince them that ours is the right position, he said. That was it on the Standard newspaper. We'll move on to the Point newspaper. Also on the Point newspaper, revised excise tax on alcoholic beverages approved. The Gambia Armed Forces still searching 3 escaped soldiers. The Gambia Armed Forces still searching 3 escaped soldiers. Personnel of the military police of the Gambia Armed Forces are currently manhunting 3 escaped soldiers from Fajara Barracks, the Point has learned. The spokesperson of the Gambia Armed Forces, Major Lamin Sanyang, confirmed the development to the Point, saying that the military police of the Gambia Armed Forces are currently looking for the suspects. It could be recalled that personnel of the military police last month arrested 6 soldiers from Fajara Barracks as they were posted at Gunjur. Their arrest followed a land tussle between Berendin and Gunjur. That led to a loss of life. Buba Jame, former staff of Brikama Area Council. These 3 soldiers who were on duty absconded and left their rifles. This was it for the newspapers. Lamin, over to you.
Well, thank you, Jaka, for the papers there. So we will bring you a story on the Indian president. That's the President Ram Nath Kovind. this afternoon arrived in the Gambia to start a 3-day official visit. So everyone has been asking who Ram Nath Kovind is. Well, he's the president of India. He's a lawyer by profession. Well, he was a lawyer, veteran political representative, and an ardent, long-time champion of equitability in society and integrity in Indian political life. Shri Ram Nath Kovind was born on October 1st, 1945 in village Parak, district Kampau, Dehat, Uttar Pradesh, before assuming office of the 14th President of India on July 25, 2017. Shri Kovind served as the 36th Governor of the state of Bihar from August 16, 2015 to June 28, 2017. He will be in the country for about 3 days. So today I'll be talking to the new spokesman of Gambia Democratic Congress, Ahmad Kah. It's the first time that he is speaking to the Fatu Network since he became the new spokesperson of the GDC, that's the Opposition Gambia Democratic Congress. We'll be talking about some pertinent issues there regarding GDC. Mr. Ahmad Kah, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Njai. Thank you for having me.
So you are the new face, the new propagandist of GDC. Tell us first of all, what is happening within your party?
What's happening within our party is like we have a vision. Now we are working on next elections. Our agenda, everything is like kind of confined towards that outline. Working towards the next election. We are prepared for elections. And then we have undergone some sort of restructuring in the party to see to it that we'll be able to attain this goal that we have.
Yeah. So tell us, you are the third or fourth spokesman of GDC. We've seen a lot of movement in terms of people leaving your party. What is exactly happening? What is happening when it comes to resignations and defections?
I think it's another kind of manifestation of the democratic values that happens or that is within the GDC. What we believe is everybody has every right at any point in time, if your political ideologies is in line with the GDC, to stay with the GDC. If it is not in line with the GDC, or you think you can come participate in national development somewhere else, then you are free to do so. So I think that's also another way where people can see that GDC is a place where people can come in, but also going out that is mandatory upon the people that are within the GDC if they want to go out. I think it's a healthy democratic values that is just happening in the GDC. It is not about any kind of like administrative or grievance or political issues within ourselves. I believe it's just like anybody that left the GDC is because they think they can participate, contribute to national development somewhere else at the moment better they would do in the GDC at the current time. Not really what it is, yeah.
But there are people who say GDC is a one-man party. if you look at it in the face of it, people might think that it's a democratic party, but if you look deeper, you will realize that it is a one-man party. Everything is built around Mama Kande. Is this the case?
No, that's never been the case. You see, sometimes people need to understand. It is likely, I'm not even sure, but likely Mama Kande would be the candidate of the party in the next election or so. So sometimes some of our activities, just because he's the head of the party. But when you come down there, you can see that GDC is as diverse, in fact more diverse than any other party in this country. I think I can tell you it's the only party that is run by very young people. That's what.
But how do you reconcile that to some of the people who have been members of this party, but at some point left, and say, this is the reason why we left? The fact that Mama Kande has taken the party as his private entity, that is why we left. How do you reconcile that to that?
Yes, I can tell you, like before assuming the position as spokesperson, I was the finance director of the JDC. When it comes to financial matters, most of the time when people talk about it, maybe that's where they can go to, or they will really head to. I can show you how GDC raised their funds. People that are from the diaspora, people that are in the Gambia, every one of us, we do contribute. This is how we made our funds. I will not even worry after this program to show you how exactly we make our funds. Those funds, they go straight to GDC accounts. Mama Kande is not the only signatory in that account. In fact, hardly would Mama Kande instruct, instruct for payment from those accounts. Normally what happens through executive committee meetings, we come up with decisions, we come up with resolution to finance or whatever that we need to do, and then checks are raised by those people that are running the party. For example, the treasurer and other members of the finance committee. So like people saying that GDC is a one-man show, I think is just absolutely false. It's not true. It is not happening in our administration. We have a very formidable structure. Positions are handled by different people. Like I am here today talking to you about the party, and then you also even here call me the face of the party. That means Mama Kande is not the one running everything. Is that not so? So I think these are just kind of like, for certain people, they believe maybe by saying that can make an impact. And sometimes also certain people, they talk about GDC in a negative manner, because if really GDC is up there and also they want a face, want a picture out there, maybe I think to their political allies or whatever calculation they may have, they can think that it is ideal to send jabs on the GDC, So I think this is just what is happening. But Mama Kande, GDC is not a one-man show. I think it is one of the most democratic political parties, one of the most structured political parties in this country. We have offices, we have regional offices everywhere in this country. We have portfolios. In fact, our list of executive, I think, could be the biggest in this country for political parties. And then we have representation from the youth, from the women, and all that. And in fact, in our constitutions, a woman, we must at all time have a representative of 30%. So you can see all of this put together, and somebody can come out and say it's a one-man show, and all these people are working together, functioning, doing their respective duties on a daily basis. I think it's all false.
So I'm open to the idea of looking at how you make your funds later. But could you tell our viewers, how do you go about making money, making your funds?
Yes, like as a political party, just like any other political party, we have people that are members of the party that do contribute to the party. We that are the executive members of the party also do contribute. Mama Kande himself also do contribute in the party. So we make contributions among ourselves, our supporters and all that. There are accounts, that belongs to members of the JDC that are in the diaspora and all that, and they are all sending remittances to the JDC. So we just make funds like any other party is doing.
How about claims that there are some business people outside, in Nigeria and other parts of the world who are sponsoring your party? Is this true?
No, it's not true. That's in fact news to me. So that's not true. Like I told you, I've been the finance head of the JDC almost since inception. I've been very active in what's happening in JDC financial matters, and I can tell you that's all absolutely false. That's not true.
So we have also seen your party being very active in terms of national crises. For example, we have seen your party cancel a nationwide tour that was built to take place, and your party leader had to go to CRR and URR when disasters happened there. What can you tell us about this GDC? Whenever, is it about trying to score political points, political gain, or what really is GDC trying to achieve here?
No. It was not about trying to score political points. That's not the first. That's not the second. There was Gunjur, there was Faraba, in other parts of the country, even last year and so on. So that is one of the, we believe as a party, we are established to serve the Gambian people. And we see no sense in trying to go out, doing one or two things while there are certain people in this country that are suffering. So this was just why we made the decision and say we have to cancel this tour, and what would have been spent in that particular tour would be given to these people. So I think as a party, we believe we are working for the people. Whatever we have, whatever that belongs to us as a party, belongs to the city, belongs to the Gambian people. So we believe when the Gambians are in need, obviously, then they are priority. They are number one. That should be given to them. So this was just what happened. And also on that again, you can see that just tells you how structured GDC is. If we can make such change, such decision, take such this in that very short span of time, we'll tell you that GDC is a party that is prepared, that works proactively, that is ready for anything at any time. So that again will just tell everybody sensible how structured GDC is. Only because we are very structured. Only because we are very, if we, that will not just come out of Mama's own decision. This will come as an executive decision. And if the executive can meet at that, that very short period of time, come up with a decision and come with that ration, that we have to go and meet these people, we have to go and support these people, then obviously that will teach you a lesson. This is how structured GDC is, this is how proactive we are, this is how we are ready to go to the length and serve the Gambian people. So for us, it's not only about trying to raise funds, put our pockets, and that's not happening in GDC. Whatever belongs to the GDC belongs to the people and will be given to the Gambian people. Yeah.
But there was one thing about your going to URR and CRR, which some people found suspect. The issue of going directly to the people and then giving them money when you have local government authorities, for example, or when you have an agency that is responsible for disasters. But your party bypassed the National Disaster Management Agency, for example, and went directly to the people and giving them money.
No, we did not bypass the National Disaster Management Authority. That is an agent of our government, and I think they work directly with funds or whatever that are raised by the government. So we believe this money belongs to members of the GDC. There should be no problem with handing over to also people that are supporters and also that are also citizens of this country. So it has nothing to do with bypassing the NDMA. No, I think they should do their job as well. The governors and all that, all of those people should have been there before the GDC. Is that not so? Should have been there before the GDC. So really, it was not done trying to bypass the NDMA, but at the end of the day...
But don't you think your party could have engaged the NDMA? Because by going to the people directly, what some people are saying is that you are simply going out there to take advantage of people's misfortune to score for political gain.
Like I told
how do you explain that?
Look, don't mind those people. You know what? We went to Faraba, those people that are saying that we're in their houses. We went to Gunju, they were in their houses. We went to Sierra, they're in the house. We will also go somewhere else and they will still stay in their houses. And they will still tell you again that JDC is doing it for political points. What assurances do you have that those people will vote for JDC? We have been doing it for almost everywhere, for all these corners of the country. GDC have done something in all these corners of the country. What assurances do we have that they will vote for us? That's not the case. Like I tell you, look, when election is nearing or is coming, every political party here in the country raise funds. But I can give you an assurance that GDC, the money we raise, the funds we raise, is all spent back to the Gambian people. You don't see us driving very fancy cars. You don't see us trying to do here this and that. No, that's not GDC. We believe whatever belongs to the party belongs to the people, and when the people are in need, should be given to them, and that's all. So I'm telling you, GDC will also go somewhere else and do something again, support the Gambian people, and the same people will still come back and tell you again. You see them there trying to score points. If that is how to, supporting Gambians, relieving Gambians from disaster, from pain, will make us score points, and we will not stop. But I am also urging them to get out and go and score points through that same system. Because when they do, example, what GDC spend in those areas.
Do you think this should be about scoring points?
That's what I told you.
Do you really think?
No. That's what I told you earlier on. It's not about, has nothing to do with scoring points. We were doing what is expected of us as a political party, as responsible citizens, to do when other citizens of the same country or same country are in need. That's all what it is. But I'm telling you, if that is the notion that some other people will have, that this was about scoring point, I just want to tell you, the resources the GDC spend there, if it was spent by all other political parties, what do you think? It will better the lives of many people that are within those areas. So I'm just trying to tell you that we did it in many other places and regions before CRR, and they said the same thing again. But what assurance do we have these people who vote for us? We have even no assurance that they will vote for us. And we don't talk about politics throughout when we're there. I see. And there are certain areas we went to, you really know, these, looking into last election statistics, these are not strongholds of the GDC. Is that not so? So if we were trying to score points, then we would have continued on our tour, go to areas that are strongholds of the GDC, spend the money on them, and get assurances that we will get their votes. They say. So I see no way where, you know, how this is linked to that. But I'm telling you, whenever you're doing good, there are other people that will try to interpret it otherwise. And that's just how I see it. But actually, to be very honest to you, that was done to see that Gambians in need are supported.
So now let's come to next week, for example, or last week, for example, this mass protest that hit Serakunda. Your party issued a statement saying that your party leader calling for calm and restraint, and you went as far as saying that your party leader was cutting short his foreign trip to return to the country.
Yeah.
Is this really true? Wasn't these rules meant to you know, score? I'll come back to that again. Score political points.
No. He came back. It would have been false.
Did he really cut short his foreign trip?
Of
That's
course
what I
he
want
did.
to know.
Of course he did.
Where was he at the time?
He was away out of the country.
Where?
Let me come. He was away out of the country. I think the specific thing here is, like you were asking, whether he did really cut off his trip to come.
Yes.
That was what he did. And he came. They said, and since he came, we have discussed in several occasions what to do to support the youth of this nation, what also to do to support the authorities in this country, what also to do to support the country to move forward. And then we will come out again in another platform, and you will see how we're going to contribute. The statement we issued was a very frank statement, and then I think you should learn by now that GDC is a very frank party, especially when it comes to talking to the people. We have been doing it very frank to the people, tell them things as it is, how we see it, and that's actually what we did. So he cut off his trip when he was informed about what was happening and returned to the Gambia, and that shouldn't surprise you. Like we halted or we postponed our tour, nationwide tour, to go and support the Gambian people. And anytime, wherever there are disasters in this country or there are some sort of instability, violence in this country, GDC is always one of the first, either the first or one of the first parties that will reach such a ground. So therefore also that again will be or will serve as an indication that that is true again, like we have done in Faraba, in Gunjur and many other places. So if he is doing that again, yet again, I think there is already evidence on the ground that that's actually the fact.
How viable is your party, GDC?
GDC as of now is the most viable party in this country. We are different, very different. The reason, the way we are different is many political parties will tell you that, or make promises that they're working for the future. We want to make sure the youths get this, the youths get that. We are different because we GDC are working with the future. That is the youth. That's one. If you look at the people that are running GDC and the membership of the GDC has a vast, you know, the majority of the members of the GDC are in the youth class. So that also is an indication that in the long run, this GDC will serve as one of the most viable political parties in the country. But also, even looking at past election statistics, in the 2016, the presidential, we came out with 17. Is that not so? The National Assembly elections, we came out with 17. When we come to the local government elections, we move up to 21 points, something 22. So that tells you that GDC appreciated. And if you looked very well, we were the only party that had appreciated that much. So therefore, then we are very viable. And also look at it this way. Most of the leaders of other political parties will fail the test of time. Just go back to the archives. Compare what they said 2 years ago and what they are saying today on what you expect them to say tomorrow.
What do you mean by this?
You will see a huge margin contrary in their own statements. So that's what I call a test of time. So looking at GDC, what we said 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 6 hours ago, is the same thing that we're still talking about. That tells you how also formidable we are, the vision we have, how strategic we are in our planning.
So are you saying that the other political parties
I am saying that GDC is the most viable party. GDC represents the future. And I am telling you, a GDC government will be absolutely different from what any other government that you will think about in this country. We will satisfy the Gambian people.
How is your relationship like when it comes to other political parties? Because we've seen your national chairman, for example, a few months ago saying in his very brutal assessment of UDP, saying that your party prefers President Adam Barrow to UDP or to Ousainou Darboe, for example. That, President Barrow should continue but stay in power for 5 years. That is better for your party than UDP being in office for even 2 days, a day or two.
Our relationship with all other political parties in this country is cordial. And also I can tell you it's a political relationship. Meaning, if at any point in time we see the need in the interest of the Gambia to work with any party, and we believe that that will be the interest of the party, GDC is fine with it. Because for us, what we always look into is how will Gambia benefit from any relationship that GDC will get into. So our relationship is as cordial as whatever you can call it with any political party. We treat all political parties as equal. I say it. So, but at any point in time that we see the need to work with any other political party in this country, and we believe at that time it will be what will represent the interest of our country, then GDC will be happy to go by.
What does your party make of President Adam Barrow?
What we make of President Adam Barrow? As of now, we believe, I can say as a political party, we have outlined what we would have done as a party if we were in government. We see that there was a change of government. There were promises made regarding the change of government. And then at the moment, we are not that satisfied that most of those pledges have been met. We will urge the government to do better. Adam Barrow, in his leadership, we will urge them to make sure at the end of the day, they deliver to the expectations of the Gambian. This is quite important. So we believe also that they need to start to trust the people. They have to do efforts in trusting the people. The authorities also that are working under his purview and all that need to start trusting the Gambian people. That will be in the interest of our nation. So in short, I believe that at any point in time, I will advise that they should revisit the pledges made to the Gambian people, and they made them some sort of yardstick and words toward attaining such promises. It's quite important. Yeah.
Are they on track?
Are they on track with those pledges they made? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
And also there is this thing standing between President Adam Barrow and whatever he wants to achieve for Gambians. This issue of 3 years. In December, he's the 3 years would have been up, the 3 years deal that brought him to power. So at the level of GDC, where do you stand when it comes to 3 years or 5 years? That is the constitution, which is talking about 5 years, and then you have this deal that is talking about 3 years. So where is GDC? Which side is GDC on?
Yes, GDC as a political party respect the constitution of this country, and GDC, as we work at any point in time, is we look into what exactly is in the constitution, and we want to go by that. At the same time, as a nation, as a people, with our culture, our tradition, all that we know, or that that makes us Gambian, it is very important for people to maintain pledges that they have made to people, to others. So there is an issue
by pledges you mean promises.
There is an issue of either 3 years or 5 years. We as GDC, as a political party, we went in for election for 5 years. But being in Mama Kande, or President Barrow, or Lawyer Dabo, or whoever that is a political leader in this country, it is important that their pledges they made with the people to be respected. I said this some time ago. So even in my own house, I wouldn't like my child to tell me things that he won't do. So the position of the GDC regarding that is, we went into election so that if Gambians had elected us, we would go in for 5 years. We are not a signatory to the coalition, or they have agreed that 3 years period. I am urging them as a coalition to sit together. Like I've said earlier, let them refer themselves back to the pledges they made to the people, and they try as much as possible to resort to those pledges. It's quite important. As a political party, we went in for elections for a period of 5 years, and then GDC is not taking a part in any call of anything that may be in contrary with the constitution. At the same time, as a political party, we will urge political leaders to always, they are leaders, they stand in front of us. We expect to be able to rely on whatever they say, and to earn that for the benefit of this country is to make sure what they said is what is done. So that's what I can advise to them.
So are you saying,
and
because
if
that
GDC were in the position, if Mama Kande was the one that made that pledge, he would do it, because people like me that would at that time might be behind him would not let him go away out of that. We will ask him, urge him to respect.
So it is your view that President Adama Barrow should respect the promise he made to Gambians?
I am saying that I am reminding all political leaders in this country that pledges they made to people should always be respected. Yes.
Mr. Amadou Ka, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Mr. Njai. Thank you very much.
That's Amadou Ka. He's the new spokesperson for GDC, that's Gambia Democratic Congress. There. So we will bring you a report on PPP. It is now clear the party is now split down the middle, and this has left analysts asking whether the party that ruled the country for 30 years stands any chance of ever regaining its lost glory. But some members of the party are still insisting the party will not die. More in this report.
PPP is currently embroiled in a legal battle at the High Court of Banjul as some party stalwarts file a lawsuit there to challenge the fairness or otherwise of PPP's leadership contest that saw a relatively unknown Papanjai triumph over the widely known Bakari Bunjadab a few months ago. But as litigations continue over the PPP leadership issue, comes the news that Bakari Bunjadab has formed his own political party called Gambia for All Party. Bakari Dabo's party is expected to be registered by the IEC, which many say will herald a gloomy outlook for the PPP. Described as a man with a wealth of political experience, Bakari Dabo's departure from the PPP is seen in some quarters as the final blow to the party. However, Omar Amadou Jallow, a one-time interim leader of the PPP, is not convinced that Bakary Darboe's departure from the PPP will send the party to its grave.
The history of PPP is like this. If you can remember, Sirif Dibo was more powerful than all these people. He left and formed his party. Sirif Sise was powerful than all these people. At one time, he left and formed a party. Asan Musa Kamara was more powerful than all these party. At one time, what I'm saying is, the Gambian people cannot be fooled always. We have to now understand that when we are choosing leaders, it should be based on honesty, commitment, integrity, and of course, the quality of the person.
PPP, which led Gambia to independence in 1965, was the most dominant political party in the country until 1994, when it was toppled in a bloodless military coup. In the 22 years of brutal, quasi-military dictatorship that followed, the party was moribund all through.
But unfortunately, some of us betrayed the cause of the PPP after 1994. If we were all committed to the principles and values of the PPP, if we are all committed to the principle and values of the people who voted us in our constituency, all of us would have stayed here and fought against the dictatorship. But why was everybody except me? I went to prison, and you have heard in the TRRC. I was tortured. I was nearly killed. I was sent to prison for... What I'm saying is, leaders, we should test leadership quality when the going gets difficult. So the leaders of Gambia betrayed the PPP, betrayed Sir Dawda.
OJ is of the conviction that Bakary Darboe has no moral authority to claim an authority in the PPP as, in OJ's own word, he betrayed the values of the PPP since at the outset of the military takeover.
That is why people talking about this fraction in the PPP, who is heading it? Bibi Darboe. Bibi Darboe came into cabinet in 1881 when most of us were ministers already in cabinet before him. Myself, Seou Sabali, Ladni Jallow Sonko, Dr. Sao, LK Jabang, etc. We were all there. And not only that, in 82, Sir Dawda made him vice president of the Republic of the Gambia. From 82 to 92, 10 years. And then in 92, he was made the Minister of Finance under the PPP regime. When the coup took place in 1994, he came back from Senegal, betrayed the trust of his constituency, of his party, and of Sir Dawda and the country, and worked for the very person who made a coup d'etat against the very government where he was vice president for 10 years. The party and the government that made him vice president for 10 years and minister for 2 years. The soldiers that overthrew the government into a process that is nationally and internationally termed as a treasonable crime. Everybody knows that coup d'etats are treasonable crimes. You overthrow a constitutionally democratic government. The PPP government was the most democratic in Africa. Sir Dawda was the leader who recognized democracy, human rights, rule of law, and governance. That is why when Africa wanted to establish the Human Rights and People's Commission, the headquarters, they chose Gambia. How can Bakary, after being vice president under the PPP, minister under the PPP, go and join the Yaya Jammeh? And whilst he was in the Yaya Jammeh's government, he was advocating, writing letters to international institutions, calling the PPP regime that it was endemically corrupt. How can you see such a man? Is that man morally qualified to lead a party now in Gambia?
PPP's latest problem started in December 2019 when the party organized a congress to elect a leader. The congress has divided the party, and all political friends have now become political foes as they battle it out the High Court.
If I Yaman ka dam do mi refana manyi bonni woldo.
Hey, ke. Poti ama kiba diba bodu la da male jelo. Mfana jelo ne. Ndimma wala yinkina nya hani dala so ma bondi ja kina nya turu balu on ko yamelen kami ko.
Ndefana ndimuso ayanta sanya wolto baluwo.
Ay ni baluwo na fa waxal. Sawga ma jara moy jaxal.
Nyimba na salo ni lafta leyon la isa soto nin sila taringo minna wolom baluwo siloti ka kuma ko ilong ila kuoto alte la website oto www.baluwo.com wala aliela app download baramanda nyinda mala anim baluwo alse mano sanno sukuro tulo anim fen jama jama baluwo wala efisia ka kodo kina.
So, 38 years ago today, a self-styled revolutionary Kukoy Samba Sanyang led a successful coup d'etat against Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, but it was a Pyrrhic victory as it took not much time before the Senegalese intervened to restore Sir Dawda. In the 2-week period that followed the launch of the insurgency, many lives were lost and properties destroyed. So since today is the 30th July and it's the 38th year, that's the anniversary of the 1981 coup d'etat, we have been asking people what they can tell us about the coup. But I am joined by former Secretary General Mamadou Sabali. We will be talking about this coup d'etat and its place in terms of its place in the history of the country. We'll also have Coach Basamba Jau who will be joining us. But I have Mr. Sabali. Sabs, welcome. So first, let me ask you, what do you make of this coup in terms of its place in our history?
Well, interesting. I think it's a dark spot in our history, and it happened at a very delicate time in our evolution as a so-called nation state in quotes. 65 independence, some would argue 70. 81, you have this coup. I think what we need to, for me, my approach to it would be to look at it as an incident that was bad, dark, but an incident that we can learn from. I don't think it happened in a vacuum. Did the circumstances justify a forced attempt to change government? No. But there are events that led to 1981. After 81, certain events happened again, and in 1994 we had another coup. So 1981, what I remember about this, I was still an infant in Banjul, but I have vivid memories of 81, people going out to loot, merchandise from shops. I remember a neighbor from old Perseverance Street in Banjul who died, was just driving and he was shot around. Hundreds of people lost their lives. For me, the lesson is we all belong to this country. We have a political system that is set up for those who want to have access to power, and that political system, those democratic systems, should be explored for any person or group who wants to get access to power. I think what happened in 81 was, I don't think Kukoy just got up and took up arms to try to bring down Jawara. He was part of a political milieu that unfortunately did not limit their means to have access to power to formal democratic principles. They had a militaristic idea. They decided to use force, and it didn't end well. It boomerang. So, and then unfortunately for Kukoy and some of his people with whom he fled, this thing haunted them to the end of their lives. I think the lesson for me is, you want to have power, you want to serve your people, or you want that grandeur, go to the polls.
So, okay, then let me ask you this then, because you said events, and I'm sure you must have done some research when it comes to this coup d'etat. What, if there are any events, what would be those events that led to Kukoy taking up arms, trying or wanting or minded to overthrow Jawara's government?
Well, actually, I didn't do any research per se, but what I know is growing up back then in Banjul, there was graffiti on the walls of compounds and public buildings, and there was this constant thing you had, Moja Ji. I'm sure you know Moja, Movement for Justice in Africa. These are people who were socialist oriented, who thought that the way Jawara and his PPP were running the country was not the best way to run the country. And like I said, they didn't just have a political ideology, they had military inclinations. So, and to be honest and to be fair, the system was very harsh on them also. I think people who believe in this kind of ideology were variously arrested, detained, and you know what they do back then. And I think a lot of the elements who aligned with Mojaji ended up supporting the attempted coup, and not just Moja. I remember vividly members of my family who were then supporters of NCP, and I'm not saying that NCP was actually part of the coup or something, but I knew that members of my family that I knew who were supportive of NCP back then endorsed the attempted coup d'etat. So again, a lesson, because 1981 happened, an attempt at a forceful change of power, it didn't succeed. 94 succeeded. 94 brought us to where we are here today, and there are certain signals, certain signs and symbols of the situation that prevailed at that time. Now also you have people who belong to political organizations who we know very well would not limit themselves to democratic means to have access to power. That's a lesson.
So I think we have Coach on the line. Is Coach on the line now? Coach is not yet on the line, so if he's there, we will get to him there. So tell us about the role of the intervention force, Senegal. It was that intervened at some point to restore order. The coup was successful, but at some point Jawara had to speak with the Senegalese government to help him
I'm
get,
not sure
get
what your definition of success was, but
yes, but because already Jawara was kicked out of power. Had it not been for the Senegalese, Kukai's coup would have, you know, gone on to succeed. So briefly it succeeded.
Briefly,
and then
now you are qualifying.
Yes, I'm qualifying it now. Yeah. Jawara fled. Jawara was all the way in Senegal.
He didn't flee. He was out of the country.
Yes, he was in UK, and then he came to Senegal. He couldn't come to Gambia because already, I mean, these people had overrun Radio Gambia, for example.
Yes.
They've taken some very key important places. So I'm just asking the role of the Senegalese intervention force in all of this. What do you make of that? Was that a good idea? Because this coup was bloody. A lot of people died.
Well, really, to be honest, from my perspective, I'm a person who believes in democratic.
So I will get to you now. Yeah. Sorry about that. I think Coach is on the line. Hello, Coach.
Hello.
Coach, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Very well, Coach. So it's the 38th anniversary of the 1981 coup d'etat, and we've seen you written something on the event. So what would be your take on this coup?
Well, I called it the day when Gambia's innocence was taken away, because like somebody said, we were all young, and it was for the first time in our history that we were exposed to that. I remember when my mom was telling my dad, I didn't know what coup d'etat means. And it was one of the most distressing days anyway. I remember us running to the streets, you know, around Westfield there, because I live around that area. And I witnessed the first BBC bus that was hijacked by the young men there. I remember the BBC had this bus needed to have their
GLPTC.
Conductors needed to have a bag of money. And that's where the thing started.
Yes.
So, you know, there was this store that used to sell, I think it was called Rainbow, for some of those that are watching, they may remember. It was one of those stores that all of us used to eye, you know, because the clothes used to be so beautiful, we had no money.
Yes.
So everybody wanted what they were selling there, but had no access to it. So it was an interesting day, and I think it was a day that Gambians should never forget. Unfortunately, it is not one that is talked about a lot.
Yes. So, Coach, you stayed right there. We'll get back to you. So I'll come back to you. You were talking about the Senegalese. The Senegalese. And their role in all of this, yes.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, like on my way coming here to talk about this, the similarities of the general situation around that time and what's happening in this country now are quite close. Unfortunately, like Coach said, we don't actually talk about this. And we need to understand our history to be able to properly appreciate and understand our present so we could plan and build up for the future. We have Senegalese forces in this country right now. We know we have ECOMIG, but the fact is we have Senegalese forces also.
Of course,
and the coming of ECOMIG would
yes.
never have happened if the Senegalese didn't take the lead.
Yes.
So the Senegalese came to restore order and peace, of course, to bring back Jawara. Like I was saying before you cut me off, I believe in democratic ways and means of having access to power. So for me, I think the Senegalese coming in to restore order, I fully support it. They stayed longer than they were supposed to. And then what happened later, because the situation was untenable, unsustainable, they had to leave. They left unceremoniously. In this newspaper here today, here is our foreign minister asking for a foreign force. As far as I'm concerned, to continue to stay so in the country. Similarities are so eerie. I think Senegal did the right thing at the time because the nature of Koukoy and his gang, as Jawara and his people would like to call them, and I think rightly so, if they actually succeeded in taking over this country, only God knows what would have happened. I think having Jawara back with his democratic and peaceful demeanor, of course, practically zero development. So it is your view that I think that
it was worth its cost.
I will not even get there because what's the cost actually? I don't. The hundreds of people who died. Well, okay. Here's the point. I think the Senegalese came and they had gunfights with Koukoy's people, but we also had bandits in Banjul who were killing innocent people, and they were aligned with Koukoy's forces. So what's the cost really in that terms? I don't know how many people the Senegalese killed as opposed to how many people the bandits who were around Koukoy were killing. My take is Senegalese came, by the grace of God, the carnage stopped. We came back to normalcy. I think that's a positive thing, and kudos to Senegal for leading that process.
Coach, so what do you make of the Senegalese in all of this?
Well, I think their intervention was timely, because this was the most disorganized rebellion, if you want to call it that. Today I can sit here and sometimes remember people that I know who have never operated weapons, who had AK-47s with bayonets all over the place. So it was absolutely disorganized, and a lot of innocent people lost their lives, and it was a coup that was neither here nor there. So I think the intervention of the Senegalese was timely. But again, you also have to look at the effect of the coup to where we are today, because the ripple effect of Koukoy did not stop just after it was crossed, maybe I think 10 days later after it happened. But the coup d'etat, 81 coup d'etat gave us the Senegambia Confederation. When the Senegambia Confederation broke away, or broke off or whatever, and the Senegalese packed their stuff one day without notice and left, they left a security vacuum in that country.
Yes.
So, and that security vacuum, you can say that because that gave led to a Yaya Jammeh having now being working at the State House, and then the gendarmerie, which was created by the Senegalese, being disbanded. So the Jammehs are now moved to military police, or some of them to the army. And what did that do? It eventually led to the 1994 coup. And when Jawara this time went to Senegal, Abdou Diouf still had a grudge based on what had happened.
Yes.
1981, when he came and then felt that he was betrayed by Jawara in 89. That was when they left and decided, you know what, we are not going to intervene, we are not going to do anything. And that you can link the 81 coup to, in fact, what we are dealing with today, giving us even sitting and talking about a TRRC, because the governments were never given the opportunity to be able to just remove a government and then vote another one in. So the linkage is there. That's why I think it is absolutely important that these are things that we should be discussing. Documentaries should have been made on that situation, and it should be a teachable moment for all of us to learn from it, so as to avert its reoccurrence.
And coach, again, people's level of awareness at the time, because my uncle would tell me, for example, when it was announced over Radio Gambia, when Radio Gambia was overrun by Kukwai's forces there, they announced that, you know, the Senegalese were attacking the country, the Gambia, that every patriotic Gambian youth should go out there. There is a gun that you can go and grab and then go and fight. My uncle was sitting in a room with a group of boys who all said they were going, but he told them that I will not be able to join you because I am newly married. So, but then all these boys just ran. They just went and then grabbed guns and then fought during the insurgency. So I was just asking people's level of awareness at the time. What do you make of that?
No, people were not that aware, and people were just. It was just. Kukwai, it was, first of all, anybody who was sophisticated and listened to Kukwai would not have even gone out to fight for anything. I don't know whether you've had a chance to listen to his speech again. You know, you listen to it again, it was just, the text was okay, and then when he started talking and just talking on his own, it was more of rambling all over the place. You know, Jawara man munlama kok Abudu Juf munlama kokatal, and you know, it was all these crazy ramblings that were going on. And then you saw people, young people, you know, Jubru was broken into, so there was a lot of alcohol, you know, around. So you see people who were drunk. Yes. You know, so the best way to survive for most people, man, you get a gun. You know, you can get food for your people. It was a difficult period. You know, I have a friend, maybe he's watching now, whose house was next to, was kind of there around Cops. They had to move and go to, you know, live somewhere else during that period because of the bullets of guns that were going on. And of course, when they broke into, then there was this company that was selling ladder. You know. So everybody was taking a car, driving a car, people who could not even drive. So it was very disorganized. People were not sophisticated, and they just had a coup d'etat. Kukwai was speaking, and his voice, Musa Jeng would memorize most of the speech that Kukwai was giving. So you had a lot of young people who were just happy that coup had happened. Just like when Jammeh came, a lot of people were just happy. Yeah, then show now change and all these things, and it was not based on anything but just these emotions, and of course a lot of young people died from it too.
So Mr. Sabali would want to ask you a question.
Yes, Coach, I still have memories of the speech. I remember this with "Long live the revolution, long live the Supreme Council of the Revolution, hello Gambians, hello."
Yep.
But I just wanted to pick up on the issue of, you were saying, like Lamin alluded to, that people were not aware. The Moja generation back then, in terms of their political grounding, ideological grounding and sophistication, I don't think they were really bad compared to those of us who call ourselves intellectuals now. What do you think about that? I was much younger, but I think you knew the ground.
No, Moja was at an other level. But you see, the problem that Moja had at that time is that they were not able to, because of course the young ones going to school, you know, there was this pamphleting that was happening. So yes, the young people like the Baifatis were, you know, brought into that and educated. But then it did not go far. That's what I'm saying. There were people who just had this mind, because that was an interesting period in the world, because this was the period of the Cold War. This was the period when they were fighting in the Zimbabweans were fighting for their independence, so apartheid was going. So a lot of people who were following the news knew that there were a lot of, it was the time of revolution. That was when revolutionary was sexy. So you had this fantasy of, you know, I'm a revolutionarist. You know, reggae was the music that everybody danced to because it was the revolutionary music. But that did not necessarily mean that it amounted to consciousness, where it was total political consciousness. And this was when, of course, during the Cold War, there were so many people that used to read these books from Russia that would talk about what you might call it, the Russian Revolution, the communism, and all these things. And then you had the Green Book, Gaddafi stuff coming in. So you had people who had these fantasies about a revolution, but that never translated into this political awareness where you can sit and critically analyze. Because, like I said, anybody who was conscious would not have listened to Kukwai Sambasanya.
So, Saps, we're still talking about the Kukoi.
Yes, I still want to talk to Coach.
Coach, go ahead.
Like, okay, you were saying these people, they have access to the news, which is fine. They have access to books. You mentioned the Green Book. Maybe it's nostalgia about groups like the Kent Street View and stuff like. Now our generation, they are not even reading books about politics. They read tweets and Facebook posts. No, I'm just concerned. I have just seen that the generation past were a little bit, not on a mass scale, but those who identified themselves as intellectuals and ideologues actually had some philosophical grounding. That's my thing.
But you see, what he's saying is true, because at that time, it was okay to be this, we used to fancy anybody who will see with a transistor listening to BBC. Or listening to Voice of America, or listening to the Moscow radio. I forgot the name of the radio. They used to also have their own that people would listen to, and then it was nice to sit around those people, and they will be telling you, what, man, these Americans, this Russians, this. So that was the thing. Now, unfortunately, not only in the Gambia, but around the world, with the advent of social media, the focus is more on issues that may have very little to do with national development or political issues. It's more of the Instagram thing, the, famous, get famous quickly, things like that. So it's different. I think nationalism at that point was the key word. Now it's not anymore. Now it's pretty much more individualism than caring about anything else. So I agree with you that definitely their level of political participation at that time was greater, the young men and women at that time, than it is now.
Okay, yeah, I just want to pick up one issue also. Coach mentioned that the 94 is partly just a ripple effect of what happened in 81.
Yes.
And I believe that's true, because I know for sure conversations I had with Yaya Jammeh way before I ever dreamed of being a Secretary General anyway. Him talking about his experience with the Senegalese confederal forces in Banjul, some of the things they were doing, and of course he had experience with them as a gendarme. And then Jammeh came up, Senegalese left vacuum, Jammeh came up, took over the government. Now we have a foreign force. I'm sure our men and women in uniform, especially soldiers, have similar sentiments regarding privileges and everything that's going on. I'm not a prophet, doomsday prophet here, but I think, like Coach was saying, we need to learn lessons from these things. These things can't just be events that we just pass over like that. I mean, we need to understand our history to be able to avoid repeating some of our mistakes. We're talking about 81. We have a foreign force here. Anybody who tells you that our men and women in uniform are 100% happy is joking, or is living in fantasy land. And we have a headline: we want ECOMIC to stay. I'm not saying they should not stay, but we need to seriously think about our own brothers and sisters in uniform and our relationship with them moving on.
So now, before you go, Coach, I want to read out what Tunde Jones wrote on the 1981 coup today. He said, in 1981, I had just completed my A-levels exams at Gambia High School. First shock of the coup was the council members of Kukoi. Names like Simon Talibo Sane, Apai Sonko, some uneducated field force. Then Wabanjul were so naive, the looting started at Tefes. Some Dongo Banjul who knew nothing about firearms had guns, and innocent people died. Then the Senegalese came and the death increased. The morgue was full of bodies. The looting was very bad. When things calmed down, the police embarked on Kertoker search for looted goods. Some good people died in police cell because of overcrowding. Then you have the mass grave to bury the dead. Looking back, it was a bad experience.
Yeah, I think that captures.
Does that sum everything?
That summed it up, and I think it was also the aftermath of the coup was the PPP's worst period in terms of governance and respecting fundamental rights and freedoms, because what had happened was almost all intellectuals who were seen to be a bit radical were rounded up for thinking that they were part of the coup. And Sam Sar of Forea,
yes,
was arrested. Halifa Sallah was arrested. Pasambu was arrested. Adam Abba, the guy who was running for the national mayor of KMC, was arrested. Sirif Diba was arrested. Sirif Diba, in fact, contested the elections in jail. You know, and then I remember the 82 elections, and it was as a result of that. That was when the pamphlet was written by Halifa and Sam, how many more will have to die at the Mile 2 prisons, an emergency situation, in which they catalogue the human rights violations that were happening at the Mile 2. So it was not, it was a bad experience in every angle for the country. It was the PPP's worst period, and then of course it was as a result too that the PPP decided that maybe the best way to protect itself from further coups was the creation of an army.
So, Coach, the final question I'll ask the two of you. What was the role of women in all of this? Did the women play any role? Not
necessarily. It was not. If it were, I was not fully aware of it. But some women were arrested because Sam Sar's wife, Amisila, who was a lactating mom at the time, was arrested together with Sam, Halifa, Pasambu, Dumo Saho, and others. So so women were not like in the forefront of it, but some women were arrested, and I know for sure that Amisila was arrested in connection with it. And of course, after they defended themselves in court, they were released because they had nothing against them.
Coach Pasambajau, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Sabs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sabs, the role of women here. Did you read anything on women?
Like I told you, I didn't do any research on this, just my personal recollections. But I know that, for instance, Coach was saying, people went out looting. And looking back, this is like some movie. There were guns around. People were shooting, killing people. People were going out of their houses to go to the stores and loot, and they were both men and women. I was an infant, but I still remember people, women and men, who both went out to loot, and some of them were jumping over corpses in the streets. So it affected everybody.
So the women were also still...
They were there. And you know, and the after sight, I remember this Senegalese coming with their trucks, getting into rooms. I know a particular woman who had bales of some of these clothes in her house. You know what they call kunewo, manika kamato, those wooden storage spaces. The woman kept this for more than a decade. They were not closets. That's the closet okay. You know, so it was both men and women. Both men and women were killed. Both men and women were victims. Both men and women were also, well, let me call them semi-perpetrators in terms of the looting, because they went after innocent people's merchandise and just ransacked these stores. You know, it's crazy experience. We don't want it to happen again, but the only way, as far as I'm concerned, we can avoid a repeat of these things is for us to remember our history and teach our children the history. You know, some of the issues that happen before 81, after 81, there are so many complicated issues, and I think actually I'll recommend that maybe tomorrow you invite Hasum or another historian or an elderly person who was there. A lot of complicated things that happened that had ripple effects into 94 and beyond. And that's why sometimes when I hear certain elderly people say certain stories, you know, I get disgusted, because I know they are cheating the narrative. A lot has happened in this country, and for us to avoid repeating some of this ugly past, we need to teach our young ones our history.
So, Modu Sawale, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
That's Modu Sawale there. We were talking about the 1981 coup d'etat. Today is the 38th anniversary of this coup, a coup that was bloody, that led to many deaths. With that, we will come to the end of today's show. Thank you very much for being there. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.